Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Friday morning. I've done so many sessions in the evenings this week that it feels like we're almost going like daily at this point in time, but not complaining. The voice is not keeping up, but let's see how it goes this morning. Thank you very much for being with us on this lovely Friday morning. Really excited to share the latest news with you, and I suspect that David is going to add his voice to the budget speech this morning. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see what he does. But excited to have David back from the FBI, and thanks to them for presenting the news. Then we've got Norma, who's going to talk about priorities this morning, and which is a very important thing, particularly in my life at this point in time. So really looking forward to what she's got to share. Then I have Tanya back this morning, Tanya Kunze. Really excited to talk to her about failing forward, which is really an amazing topic. She made a little 2-minute video the other day on LinkedIn, and I wasn't even finished watching, and I said to her, Tanya, can we talk more about this on the show, please? And she said yes, graciously. So thank you very much, Tanya. And then today we're going to have a bit of a fun segment after that, where I'm going to share a little bit about the behind the scenes, about what's going on in here, how I get this look and feel. Just 5 minutes, a little bit, lifting the kimono and showing you what's going on in here. And then we're going to do a wrap-up, and that's going to be the show this morning. So, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. David Kopp from the FBI for the news. Here we go.
Good morning, everybody. And in your 7 o'clock news today, Francois is quite right. I'm going to be touching on the budget. But hopefully I'm not going to be talking about the bits that everyone has already spoken about, such as the tax relief that was granted when we all expected a tax hike. But rather, I combed the budget review document and the budget speech for a few nuggets that are a little bit more obscure and maybe haven't spoken about. So let's start talking about the retirement fund space. Now, in the retirement fund space, the minimum value for commuting paid-up annuities hasn't been increased since the 2008 tax year, and it has been now increased from 7,000 Rand to 15,000 Rand. So anyone with a retirement annuity of 15,000 and under that is paid up is able to commute that pre-retirement. Another interesting development in the retirement fund space, which was contained in the speech itself and not in the review document, is that NEDLAC is again exploring auto-enrollment, which means that every South African should be auto-enrolled in some form of retirement fund. And for those who are not part of an employer-sponsored fund, they are again exploring the National Retirement Fund. So again, a lot on the social retirement fund being explored at NEDLAC. Those discussions are ongoing, and we'll wait to see where they go and where they come out. In addition, in the medium-term budget statement in October 2020, it was alluded to that in order to help people through the COVID crisis, the government would explore various options for people to access their retirement funds pre-retirement without having to retire or withdraw or leave their business or their employment. We still don't have more details on that, but it is still in consideration to say in limited experiences with automatic preservation, people may be able to access their retirement fund in the case of an emergency. And again, we have covered it on the news segment, but we are waiting for confirmation, and it is confirmed that Provident funds will be annuitized from the 1st of March 2021. Then moving on to the Innovation Hub. So in April 2020, the Intergovernmental Task Force on FinTech actually released an innovation hub where the concept was that any fintech or somebody who's got innovation in the financial services space can use them for consulting. So far, they have actually covered about 80 queries in that innovation hub. In addition to the consulting, the hub also provides a sandbox arena where financial products and services can be tested in a controlled environment. That's where there may be regulatory uncertainty to see what this innovation will actually bring. And lastly, it's there to publish policies and regulatory stances on things like open banking and crypto assets, which we've already covered on the news segment too. Then interestingly, when Bitcoin is doing its thing of up and down again, and Elon Musk is no longer the world's richest man, thanks to his Bitcoin investments and the effect on the Tesla share price, the Reserve Bank is reviewing the feasibility of a retail central bank digital currency. So essentially, that is referred to as a stable coin, but the Reserve Bank is looking from a financial inclusion, a monetary policy viewpoint, a financial stability viewpoint, as well as financial intermediation into the policy or the possibility of the Reserve Bank issuing a digital currency. The minister also confirmed that the Kofi bill, which was out at the end of 2020 for public comment, is being reviewed by National Treasury and is expected that that bill will be passed into Parliament in 2021, which means that we'll probably see it enacted near the end of the year, and then the conduct standards will start. So we are nearing the end of the retail distribution review process. And in the last segment, in the budget, government has also been looking at a whole lot of tax incentives to see if they work. And the one that I would like to focus on for today is the Section 12J, or the venture capital deduction, which allowed people to deduct capital investments which are not normally deductible. Government has reviewed how well that incentive has actually worked against the objectives of helping small businesses and helping job creation. Their opinion is that that incentive did not, in fact, achieve the objectives. And in fact, all it did was rather provide a tax deduction for wealthier South Africans. The support was predominantly in low-risk venture capitals, which in their opinion would have received the funding without the incentive. So the sunset clause on that incentive is not going to be extended. So the last time to invest and get the Section 12-day deduction will be 30 June 2021. They will not be extending that clause. So again, I think the budget was the best that we could get. Not very exciting. And thank you very much for the news segment on this Friday, and enjoy your Friday and your weekend. Back to you, Francois.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much, David. So it's, I think the most, like I said it last night as well, so I think one of the most entertaining things always about the budget is the minister himself. I really enjoy watching him live. I think that is maybe the main reason why I do watch it live. It was quite interesting. I asked, how many people sort of watched it live, and about, in the one session, 25% said they watched live. In the other session, about almost 40% of people watched live. And which was quite interesting. So I don't know if people are not expecting anything drastic or anything interesting, and therefore we don't watch these things. But, if you can just listen to the little sayings and the little side punches that he does throw in there, it's worth it. That hour is absolutely worth it, I must say. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, 100%. What was interesting for me is they didn't increase some taxes on traditional beer. So they know that's a space they don't.
Don't go there. Going to upset a few ministers. The other thing what he was saying is like, when people are, or some of the tips that he's been getting on that Twitter line to say, I'll do this, it's like there needs to be less ministers in the cabinet. And he was just chuckling and saying that's above his pay grade. So, so also just sidestepping that one. David, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate it. Have a fantastic weekend, and you're welcome to stay if you like. So yeah, enjoy. But thanks. That was great. All right, so then next up is our personal development section. And as you know, that is done by Norma Simons. So really happy to have Norma back with us this morning talking about priorities. And here we go.
Good morning. Glad to be back this morning. We're talking about priorities today, and I thought it would be something nice, maybe just to use as a refresher, and remind us that we actually need those priorities. I hear a lot of people say that they get through a day and feel at the end of the day that they haven't accomplished anything, or they feel that they're so busy with the people around them that it feels like they're helping everyone else to succeed and not really looking at themselves. So then, immediately I think that, maybe a priority is, maybe setting priorities for that person to look at priorities is quite important. So let's just quickly look at what priorities is. It's really something that is very important to us. It's something that we need in our lives, and it is something that we need to, it's those things that we normally do that needs to be first. So it's really the time that we spend on the things that really matter to us and that is important. So priorities come and go. We can have priorities for life, which makes me think of a health priority, for instance. And then we have priorities for a specific season and for a specific period in our lives. So what do we really get from priorities? What do we gain from it? The first thing that comes to mind is that we have to make ourselves a priority. So if we don't look after our mind, body, and spirit, then we can't really do the work that we do and impact the world and serve our clients. Secondly, we would have focus. So instead of being everything to everybody, we have focus, we have attention, we pay attention to the things that's important to us. So we start what we think is important, and we progress in that field, and then and that obviously leads to our results then. So it's important then to build that momentum in that specific field. We also separate the urgent from the important. So instead of coming at the end of the day and feeling that I've accomplished nothing, we look at the important things. And also with urgent is looking at things that we can maybe delegate, things that we can maybe eliminate, or maybe just plan better. So then we also build confidence in what we need to say yes to and what we need to say no to. And priorities are also, those are the things we normally do first, so before anything else gets in our way. And then lastly, it frees us from the guilt that we may sometimes feel we have to do things. It frees us from the overwhelm and the anxiety. And then just typical questions we can ask ourselves to find out what is a priority in our life is to maybe think of, if I had 6 months to live, what would be important for me right now? If I have 5 years to live, what would be important to me right now? Or when I'm sitting in my rocking chair one day, what would be important to me, and what are those things that I really regret that I didn't do? So if you feel this is a field for growth for you, you can maybe look at your, let's say, top 5 priorities, and then go and look at a typical day, and then see how you spend your time. What is the activities that you spend your time on? And then obviously compare the two and see how far off you are from priorities or how close you are to your priorities. So that's all I have for you today. See you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norma. And something to go and ponder about all the priorities that we need to set. And also, I think we really need to challenge whether something is, in fact, a priority or not, because sometimes we prioritize the wrong stuff. And I think that is something that, the more you do it, the more clever you and the more experienced you'll become in doing exactly this and setting those priorities. So thank you very much for that segment. And now I'm obviously very excited because now it is turn for me to come and add Tanya to the discussion this morning. And Tanya and I, in the featured guest section, or segment rather, are going to talk about failing forward. So we're really excited to have her on, and here we go. So yeah, good morning, Tanya. Welcome back.
So awesome to be back. Oh, amazing. I want to show you guys something first. Have you seen my Ragnarok?
No, please show it off. Oh,
we've got
check that.
Ragnarok. I don't know if you can see them both. I thought I'd bring you superheroes.
No, they are all good. They are very welcome. Yeah. So, and that's your dad's did those paintings.
Yes. So my dad's a professional artist and painted Ragnar because he's our TV hero. And then the rock was painted for a restaurant that decided they didn't want to put the painting up anymore. So then I took that and I walked up the stairs one day and I realized, oh, it's Ragnarok.
Absolutely brilliant. I really like that. What I want to ask you, the sorry, in terms of that, maybe the restaurant, I don't know, did they never like take it, or was it there and they closed down, or how did it end up back with you?
A bit of a contentious issue because they ordered it without a deposit and then they let him down, which I thought was awful, but I'm just going to let that one fly.
Yeah, in this instance, it's okay. Or maybe they realized the Hard Rock Cafe was already taken. I don't know. So yeah, no, cool stuff. Tanya, welcome back. I'm really looking forward to this discussion with you around this question of failing forward. And sort of, let's just set the scene. I mean, where did this thought first originate from? Because I love these little 1.5, 2 minute videos that you make while you're in the car. And I think you call it Thought on the Go or something like that.
Yes.
I don't know what that is called, but you do it quite often in your car. And every week, I think, at least I see a new video. But what prompted this thought and where does it come from, so we can set the scene and then go deeper into that?
Absolutely. Well, as we all know, I'm quite a nerd, so I always think of these strange things, and my brain always goes when I'm driving, and I just come up with ideas and thoughts. And the one thought that I had is, how we celebrate people passing or just passing, and we look at that, and I'm thinking, well, okay, that's one aspect. Then I did a bit of research on it, and I saw that on average, 6.2% of all scholars in any particular year get an A average. And I thought, well, who's failing? Is it the students failing, or is it the school system failing? And of course, I do 5-day workshops with people who are ADD and ADHD on quite a frequent basis. And I keep them focused and concentrating because I use the audio, visual, and kinesthetic representational system processes. I take the time to find out who each individual is from a dominance, influence, system structure, and compliance perspective with Phil Hagen, my partner in the UK. And when I work with my people, I understand the individuality of them and I work with them. So I realized that people aren't failing. The schooling system potentially is failing. Now, I know a lot of schools have moved into using, like Crawford's brilliant at it, they're using the representational systems, and the material coming out of there is fantastic, but so are the aggregates. And then I took it into the workspace and I thought, well, if we're training in the workspace and we're training same old, then we've got a problem. And as we know, there's 48 different types of salespeople and 48 different types of leaders. Are we still doing a broad stroke? So my whole concept sort of with failing forward literally initiated from that. And then I started realizing, well, are we failing or are we learning? And that's where that whole concept came from.
Yeah, and I think it struck a chord with quite a few people. It wasn't just that, you were talking to yourself in the car and then this thing went nowhere. I think you must have had quite a good response from this thought, because I think a lot of people are saying, because I find it in my own life, is we are so, and I found it like with my hobby, with painting. Like I would sometimes, often not paint because I'm afraid that I'm going to stuff it up and I have to do it over again. So I don't know if it's the fear of failure or this thing about I don't want to do it again and again and again. I don't know which of those two are really the biggest culprit. But that's somewhere where I really realized champ, you just need to paint. And if it's a stuff up, then you strip it and you start again, because that's how you're going to get better. But it is still, it's still something, I don't know. Do you think we feel a little bit like you know, when I do something, it's particularly like something that's going to be quick and easy. Okay, I'm going to walk around the block, and, you know, if I don't make it, it's okay. It's 10 minutes, I'm back at home. But if you're going to spend like weeks on something and it doesn't work out, do you think that we are thinking in our mind that wasted time, lost opportunity, you know? Do you think that the amount of effort and time that we need to put into something, does that also play a role in terms of whether we afraid to take action or not?
Well, it's 100% programming. I'm so glad you raised that. Okay, so we were programmed from birth that failing was bad, that we had to be perfect. Don't color outside the lines. Make sure that you've written your words properly. When you read, it has to be perfect. Don't make a mistake. So we were programmed almost to be a little bit artificial intelligence, a little bit AI, a little bit robotic. Don't make a mistake because it's bad. But look at the grand masters. Look at a Picasso. Look at a Monet. Those aren't perfect. Those are not perfect flowers. They're not perfect stars. They're an interpretation, they're an impression. So what is perfection really? And we need to understand that sometimes, you know, someone can make a mistake, but it becomes something incredibly beautiful. Also, it's rewiring in our brains. So if we look at cognitive neuroscience, for example, and we look at neuroimaging research, things like self-regulation failure, which transcend overwhelming temptations, those are areas where we grow. So are we going to be living in the sort of success from the top down? Because if we're living in fear, we're living bottom up, okay? So we're looking at the prefrontal cortex versus the subcortical regions. Now, if we're living in the subcortical regions, we're living in a fear-based response, which is deeply ingrained in us from school days. It's, you know, don't step outside the line, don't speak, don't get caught chewing gum, all those things that we all did. And now we're sitting and going, well, you know, now we've got to look at top-down regulation. Top-down regulation, when you're using the neocortex, when you're using the more conscious parts of the brain, it's going, I'm going to explore, I'm going to try this. If I fail, I fail. On the go was one of those. I thought of myself in the moment. I thought, I'm going to form myself with my brain wave, and I call it brain farting, okay, in the morning. So I get this idea, and it pops into my head, and then I sit down and I do this video. And I have had such an incredible response. Sometimes I've had up to 48,000 views of a video where I've just had this idea in the morning, which potentially is intended to help someone or guide someone or grow someone or change a thought process. And I thought to myself in that moment, some people are going to laugh at me, some people are going to judge me, but some people are going to get something from it. So I did it anyway. And, you know, so my self-regulation then went into, if I get judged, I get judged. Everybody judges. Let's get over and build a bridge. So you're very, very normal in your response, but paint. And in Maxwell's book, apparently he speaks a lot about, you know, there's a trial group where they say there was a group that were given a mandate to create something, but they were judged on the final product, and another group that were judged on how many times they created it. And the results were that the people that didn't have a worry about it being perfect the first time, but created many, learned from their former mistakes and were able to create something amazing at the end. And they actually ended up getting the high marks.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think, you know, a lot of people are feeling like school is set up obviously still for the industrial system or the industrial times, and sort of the way that you need to be employed and do things this way, and you need to do it right. So we've got this negative way of approaching it. And I think a lot of us, because we wonder when did we lose our creativity? When did we lose our curiosity? And I think by the time you get to matric, maybe, I don't know, you know, that's when some of these things get lost a little bit. And I'm just like now also having these brain farts as we're speaking. And I think maybe there's good intentions, you know, there may very well be good intentions, but they're not, at the end of the day, that's not how it fosters in our lives, because we tend to get labeled, we tend to get put into boxes, or we tend to associate with certain people that are sort of labeled the same, and we drift away from our potential and our gifts and things. And it's only sometimes late in life that we figure out that, listen, school was just school, you know. But for some people, they get stuck there, and that's quite a challenge. You talk a lot about I'm not good enough syndrome. So what is that?
It's based heavily on what you've just spoken about now, is where I coach a lot of people, and it often comes up where they don't feel good enough. They don't feel like they could do it. They don't go to the next level. They don't go to the next step. And I've coached so many people to get over their own blocks, but you put your own block in your way. So, the rhetoric in coaching would be what has worked before, what hasn't worked before. What lesson did you learn from what hasn't worked before? So let's just go back to that school rhetoric again and bring it back into this conversation. A child comes home and goes, geez, Mom, I failed. Or geez, Dad, I failed. And the parent goes, geez, try harder next time. Or, learn harder next time, or take more time. And they try and sort of appease the situation rather than sitting out the child and going, so what lesson did you learn from this? Okay, so you may have failed this particular test or this exam or this year, or whatever it might be. Hopefully it's not that late in the program. What did you learn? So did you learn that maybe you needed to study for shorter periods of time? Because we only focus and concentrate for 14 minutes at a time. There again, another old learning that I can dispel because it's just nonsense. We don't focus for 45 minutes at a time. Our brains are far too active at the moment. So we've only got a window of 14 minutes. So you should study for 14 minutes, take a break, study for 14 minutes, take a break, and you'll get more in. Then what is your representational system, my child? Are you left or right brain oriented? Are you audio, visual, kinesthetic? Should you be reading your text onto your phone and listening to it and maybe drawing mind maps? What is your learning representational system? How are you going to take this information in? Because we were never taught how to study based on our ability throughout life. So people that are in the financial services industry that are learning those REs, I tried to do my REs, and my RE was on the day before my neuroscience exam. And when I walked out, they looked at me and they were like, no, choose another career path, because I didn't study properly and it just wasn't there for me. It's a lot of work. Huge respect to all people who are really far down that road. So it's how you're learning, and then you sit with your child. And with my young son, he's audio kinesthetic, and I've been to the school and I've said to them, look guys, I want you to have someone that does an audio exam with him where he's responding. The quiet written exam is not going to work for him. If he can't hear himself, he's not going to assimilate the information appropriately. And I went down a whole rabbit hole with that one. But, it's understanding that we are different. We have greater knowledge. People thought the earth was flat. They knew, no, it's round. And how many of those myths still exist today because we haven't questioned them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And, coming down to beliefs, I was talking in a session the other day about the impact of beliefs on our thoughts and our emotions and just that downstream effect that has got. And if we don't challenge what we believe to be true about something, then we just, because maybe something happened to us, maybe we saw something, maybe somebody close to us had an experience, and now we take that as to be the truth, the absolute truth, and we don't even go there to challenge what we know. And that's the thing. So on that point, for some people, fear is very motivating. For others, it's very debilitating. But what is the difference between? I mean, is it even possible to take fear and let it motivate you? And then maybe also, I've also heard you talk about courage quite a bit. So what is the difference then between fear and courage? And can we talk a little bit about around those two aspects?
I'm loving your questioning. This is so on point. So people often say to me when I raise this in my workshops, and they say, no, but fear motivates me. And I usually just stop them dead in their tracks and I go, no. And then they look at me quite disheveled because I've jumped in on their thinking process. Fear debilitates. Fear, it's proven. If you look on any neuroimaging research, when you go into a place of fear, it sends out cortisol, it sends out inattentional blindness. Doesn't send it out, it creates inattentional blindness. It creates the fight, flight, or freeze center and a shutdown. Okay, so fear makes you go into a back foot. But if you shift that fear into courage and you go, I am good enough, I'm going to try, I'm going to attempt this, immediately you shift up to the courage part of the brain. Now, everything vibrates, we know this. A table vibrates at a certain frequency and water vibrates at a certain frequency, and so do our physical bodies. But we have three core bodies, the mental body, the physical body, and the energetic body. And our emotion also has a frequency which they can measure in megahertz. Now, fear has a 95 megahertz vibrational measurement, and courage is sitting more at the 150 to 200 mark. So it's actually a different vibrational energy. Now, when you have a different vibrational energy, it sends the thought to a different part of the brain. So when your body is feeling an emotion of fear, which is your 95%, which most of the world actually functions from, it goes into the fight, flight, or freeze, and it creates debilitating knee-jerk reactions, which are kind of thoughtless and programmed. When you're thinking in the higher vibrational thing, because the energy behind it is higher, you go into a more conscious part of the brain, where you're able to have attentional awareness, think clearly, bit of calm, you're breathing. So, when you're having shallow breaths, you have a shallow life. When you have deep breaths, you have a deep life. And it's all about how your body and physiology are reacting to those dynamics. So fear wasn't the motivator, courage was. And so, for example, if you're in a sort of sales space and you're given a target and you're a competitive A type, it wasn't fear that made you beat your colleague. It was actually courage, because you're going, you know what, I'm courageous enough to take you on, and I'm courageous enough to win. So climb into that courage. If you can't be a mountain, be a hill, but be something more. Take that step forward. If you see that you failed at something, look at it and go, okay, perceived failure, conceived failure. What did I do wrong? What could I do differently? How can I shift and change? Let me try again tomorrow. And that changes everything.
Yeah. And I mean, just think about like when we learned to walk. Just imagine the first time you fell down, you decided, no, walking is not for me. I'm not talented enough. I just can't do this thing. Imagine that. Or when you started driving a car, it's like, the first time it's like, I can't. Even if it's just a little bit of an uphill, you just can't get in, and then you stop. It's like, okay, so now what? So luckily we had Uber. I don't know if we still have that now with everything that's going on, but that's the thing, and it's like that with everything in life. Everything we know today, we struggled with when we started. And it's quite an interesting sort of aspect this to say, well, fear can't motivate you. It's actually courage that is the motivation. And that just means obviously also just facing things head on and just going for it and just taking action. For me, I don't know. Are there different ways that one can deal with fear? Because for me, it's taking action. That's the only thing that I've found that is working for me. Like if I start to feel anxious, or I start to feel stressed, or I start to feel like, oh crap, I don't know what I need to do next. If I don't take action, it becomes worse and worse and worse. But if I do something, then that feeling sort of starts to subside. So are there other ways that one could actually face fear head on?
Absolutely. Well, that's another brilliant question. So what we've got to realize is that fear stems from where in the brain we're thinking. Now, when we have a little bit of a bit of knowledge, and I know I always talk about the two areas, but I'm trying to sort of keep it simple because there's a tremendous amount of information. There's obviously more than two areas of the brain, but I keep it to the basics so people don't have a biology lesson from me. But when you realize that if you're thinking in your fear part of your brain, your breath is shallow, you're not feeling great, all your bodies are in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, it's going to be debilitating for you. So your activity to start taking action actually burns some of that fight, flight, or freeze that you're busy creating. That energy gets put somewhere and it enables you to move into a more conscious part of the brain. But start listening to your body. We've never, especially, we were trained not to listen to our emotions. We were trained not to listen to our body and be cerebral. But they're all interconnected. So, if you're having a moment of panic and you maybe, your palms start sweating or your heart rate goes up or your breath is shallow, sit, take a moment, put your hand on your solar plexus and breathe. Just some deep breaths to calm the system down. There's a tapping exercise which the Navy SEALs use where you put your finger on this part of your forehead and you close one nostril and you take a deep breath in, hold it for several seconds, slowly breathe out, change nostrils, breathe in, breathe out, calm the system down, and then reapproach the situation. It takes a few seconds, literally under a minute. You can calm your system down, stop the production of all those hormones, and if Navy SEALs can use it, so can people that are in the financial services space. So it's cool, and we've been happening to do it.
Because we are financial SEALs, yeah.
There we go, financial SEALs. That's a new term. We're going to use it. There's a fantastic
Yeah.
app called Spotify, which is it's got meditations which are completely neutral. They've got no music. They're non-religious. They literally just created to calm the brain down, to get you into your consciousness. So you download that app, you put the headphones in, you listen for 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 12 minutes at most. Calm your system down, then reapproach it. But when you're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, it's going to be knee-jerk reactions based on your past. And I've got to put one more thing in there. If we look at timelines, if we took a typical straw that you drink a cool drink with, and we put our timelines on that straw, okay, so that's birth and all the different moments in your life that you remember. We're living in this sort of going back to the future type scenario, okay? So you're constantly revisiting your past to base your reactions on it, which is a very normal process that we use for survival, right? But if I take that straw and I face it towards you, you've got to look at that straw head on. There's only one timeline, there's only one moment, and that's now. So when you go into that place of calm through meditation, through the breathing technique that the financial seals are going to start using, and through all of those dynamics, what happens is you suddenly realize, this is my moment. All the things that I was afraid of in the past, maybe I've transcended them. Maybe I've grown beyond them, and maybe I don't need to revisit that anymore. And you have a conscious now moment look at what's going on in your life. You there? Francois, I've lost you.
There, sorry.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there with the internet a little bit. Okay. But those are all very, very insightful, Tanya, and it's making me think like, does it mean that because obviously I have a choice whether I want to accept failure or if I want to say screw failure, this is what I'm going to do. But does it mean that if I do choose to accept failure, which is sometimes necessary. I mean, if something isn't working and you've really given it a good shot, then at some point you need to decide like, okay, maybe we need to change a bit of direction. It also doesn't help running into a wall all the time, but you can't make a door because you're too small to do that. But does it mean that I'm accepting mediocrity if I accept failure? Is that absolutely a bad thing?
Oh, you're on fire today, Francois. I'm loving these questions. They're so great. So what I am definitely not advocating is mediocrity. And I'm not advocating doing the same thing over and over again to get the same result. Obviously, my hero Einstein says that, right? So, what it is, it's saying, okay, I've made a mistake. I'm not going to do the same thing again because I'm going to stop. I'm going to turn the straw this way. I'm going to calm my breath and I'm going to look at what didn't work, why it didn't work. I'm going to self-question. And look, that's obviously a reason why coaching is so powerful. The amount of times I'm sitting with clients and it's 1 hour, like once a month or whatever, and we regroup and we look at where they've failed. We look at where they've gone wrong. We look at what hasn't worked. And we then question it together because, questioning in your own mind, you're going to get a lot of the same answer. And that's why coaching in sport and coaching in a corporate space really works incredibly well because often self-reflection isn't enough. So obviously try the self-reflection, but if that doesn't work, it's really powerful to go to somebody that can assist you because they've got the training and qualification to assist you. And coaching is designed to be future-looking. So we don't necessarily always look to the past. We sometimes have to, but it's more about future, saying, okay, where are you now? Where do you want to be? How are we going to get you there? Then we look at those areas of fall off where you may need to reflect marginally to the past. Where in your past did that impact you? Was it a teacher? Was it a parent? Was it something that happened to you at work? Was it a moment where you felt embarrassed? And then we can say, well, do you still need to worry about that? Are you still 11? Can we be an adult now? Let's move on. And so it's easy to then reflect on those aspects and go, yes, I can change my rhetoric. Yes, I can change the way I think about this, the way I approach this, the way I'm looking at it. And, the same old. Sometimes people work exclusively from a textbook and they'll try a textbook modality, but that textbook modality worked in that particular environment with those people. Is it going to work in your environment with your people? That 80-20 thing, like, go and do this. And is it 80-20? Looking at close ratios, for example. Some people have got a 10% close ratio. Some people have got a 90% close ratio. They cannot work the same way. I had a lady the one day, I was called in to assist, and she was a cold caller. and she was making 100 cold calls a day and getting no appointments. So all I did is go in and go, I don't want you to make 100 calls. I just want you to give me 4 appointments today. Taught her how to do it briefly, and we got 4 appointments. It was quite a simple thing. So it's changing the way you think about it, changing your approach, changing your view, and be careful of the textbook. The textbook it can be quite dangerous because then you're repeating things. And as we've proven, not 21 days to make a habit, 66 days to make a habit. All of these dynamics that we've held on to, how true are they? So, question, and get what works for you.
Oh, that is critically important. And I love the fact that, I just change something small, and just try that, because sometimes it's always this thing about like a compass, or if you start off in a certain direction, if you're off by 1 degree, it's nothing. If the pilot takes off from Cape Town and they're off by 1 degree, by the time they get to the first mountain, it's still okay. But by the time they get to Joburg, they might not be getting to Joburg. They're way off. And that little change in the beginning has a massive impact over the long run. We've also been chatting about a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., I think that you are quite passionate about. And don't you want to sort of end the segment for us with some thoughts on that, Tanya?
Absolutely. So, and you brought up flying, and actually, yes, we can fly. I've flown to Durban and Cape Town twice with Airlink, and I love it, and I can get on the plane and it's freedom. But he says, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. No matter what, keep moving.
Absolutely. And if you can't crawl, roll. That's also a thing. so Franco added that part. That was also amazing. Tanya, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been very insightful. I love it. Your energy is absolutely infectious. So thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you soon again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I love it.
Cool stuff. All right. With that, now we're going to have a little bit of fun this morning. And for the first time, we're going to see how that goes. I'm going to give you a little bit of a backdoor or a behind the scenes look of what I do and what the studio looks like. So let's do that. All right. So what I'm just trying to do quickly is just also get in my other camera into the studio so that I can in fact show you so let's do this. Let me just see if I could change the view. Yes, I could. There we go. Okay. So cool beans. So let me bring this up onto the stream, and let's do that. So hopefully you can see that. Let me just see if there's maybe a little bit of a better way of doing this. Let's do that. Yeah, there you go. So this is what the studio really looks like. And if you look at, I think, the lighting, it's actually amazing to see, just how light it is in here. Yet when you look at the background, it looks to be quite dark. So let me just stand a little bit back. I'm just going to take off my headphones, and then I can move around. So here you can really see the. Let me just make sure my mic is not on here. That's all good. So that's fine. So there we got, this is my setup. So you can see there that we've got 2 screens, which is very cool. I'm so happy that I finally managed to do that, and my laptop. So I'm basically working off of 3 of these screens, and it just allows me to, on the one hand, you'll see top left, I can manage the actual stream. So that's what the studio environment looks like. I've got my notes on the right-hand side, and I can even do other stuff and look up things on my laptop as and when I need to. So you don't need a setup like this. The very least you need, if you want to do something similar, is actually just use a laptop. But I would always suggest a second monitor. That second monitor allows you to work distraction-free and then keep information or things that you need to refer to on your laptop, and you can refer between those two screens. So that really, really, really works well. Then, this laptop, so let me first show you. I've got a bit of a beast of a laptop. This thing weighs like 6 tons and, 6.5 tons. And the reason is that it's really a gaming laptop. but it is built specifically so that I can edit videos wherever I am, because often I would be traveling or I won't be at home, and then I need to edit videos, and unfortunately you do need a lot of power with the software that I'm using in order to do that, although there are much simpler software that comes with Windows that you can actually use to edit anything that you want. But that was the main reason why I did that, and also the speed at which I can do things now, because there's a SSD monitor, SSD hard drive in here, so which means it's a solid state drive, and those things are like milliseconds. If you from off to on is like seconds. So that really saves me a lot of time. If something goes wrong, to restart is really, really quickly. It's really, really quick, so I don't need to worry about that. Then one of my main prized possessions is this little thing, and this is what I use for the audio. So this is a mixing desk. I initially bought this for the podcast, so I didn't buy this for the live stream at all. But what's amazing here is that I can have up to 4 microphones connected to this. So for when we're going to do the panel discussions and have the live shows where we're going to invite you to come and join us live, in that case, we're going to need more than one microphone. So it's perfect for that. We can also bring in my phone. I can connect via Bluetooth. And then here on the right-hand side, this is where the magic happens when I play our theme song. So that all happens from there, which is brilliant. And I can also record the audio straight on there if I want to. So this is just an amazing piece of technology. It connects to the laptop using USB. So that makes it very, very easy. But that's the other thing. When I bought this more than a year and a half ago, it was I paid 12,500 Rand for it. So it's very expensive. What I did not realize at the time is that I was buying a living product. So usually, because I've got another mixer like this, usually when you have that, you can't change anything. It is what it is. Everything is coded into the hardware. So you can't update it. You can't have new functionality, nothing. The amount of functionality that Rode has implemented through firmware updates or their little software updates that run this machine is amazing. The colors have changed on the buttons, the screen layout, all those things have changed dramatically. So really a living product. There's more and more and more things that we can do. They're rolling out more and more processing capabilities into this machine. So that money has now paid for itself over and over again. So sometimes investing in the right equipment when you are ready to do so, that is really a powerful thing to do. So then just maybe let me back up a little bit. So to help with the sound, I have done a lot of curtains there in the front. So that helps, and I've even got a bit of a carpet here. And then what I've done here at the back, so let me see if I can turn around for you. Sorry for my back on the other camera. So let me just go to a single view. So there you can see, this is sort of where that is. This is the light. I made this light myself, and this is what I used for a very, very long time. But now I've also put LEDs into the ceiling, but these LEDs are really, really amazing because I can control them via my phone and Wi-Fi. So what is really, really amazing, sorry, you can see I drink a lot of coffee, but what is really amazing with that is that I am really looking at, I can change the light however I want. So I am going to show you that. Let me just remove this from the stream. And just a quick demo on what that would look like so that you could see what could happen. So if you see where we are at the moment, I can very, very easily start changing some of the light if it is connected. I need to go onto my Wi-Fi. Sorry, this is the beauty about this. And this is the last thing I want to show you, and then we'll continue with the last part of the show. So there we go. So let's see if I change that. You can see that the light is in fact changing. So let me just see. That was the one. If I change the other one, we can very easily go and change the color of the lights, which is really amazing. I can go to red if I want to. I really do dig the blue and the purple sort of thing. So yeah, so there you go. And that's really what I'm doing. That's what my studio looks like. It's all the equipment I'm using. I also have my trusty old JBL headphones, and that's really that. The camera I'm using, I didn't show you, but that is the Logitech C922, which is a 1080p camera. It's really, really powerful, and it's really something that I would definitely recommend. It's a little bit more expensive. It's about 2,000 Rand, but absolutely worth every single cent. The difference it makes is phenomenal. My biggest thing that I really do want to do is to get I want to get a proper DSLR camera, because that's again at the next level, but need to save a little bit for that one. Alrighty, so cool stuff. So there we go. And with that, let's wrap up. That's because that's a wrap for today. So let me do the wrap up. Right, so there we go. Thank you. This morning, David shared with us some budget highlights. He even mentioned a couple of things that I did not talk about in my budget review that we did last night. Thank you to everybody that did attend that. It was really phenomenal. The CPD certificates have already been sent. And it was an hour and a half session, but I really dug deep into the financial planning side of things and how the budget, the things that we need to know about it from a financial planning point of view. So we didn't go into the economic side of it and what the economy, the impact on economy and what the long-term outlook is. There's much more clever people to talk about that than me. So that was a phenomenal session. So for those of you that did attend, I really thank you. Thank you very much for doing that. Norma spoke a little bit about priorities and how we should do that and approach that, and also why it's important. Then I had a phenomenal discussion with Tanya Kunze all about failing forward. And I think it was a riveting conversation, and really looking forward to chatting to Tanya some more in the near future. And then I gave you a little bit of a tour of behind the scenes. So that's sort of that for today. My last thing would be, if you haven't checked out Ignite, please go and do so. It's really, there are amazing things coming on the 16th of March. And again, just after that, we're also launching some more amazing things. So get in now, at this price, it's really, really ridiculous how cheap it is. So please go check it out, what it entails. And I would really love to welcome you to Ignite. If you are interested in the goal setting webinar, if maybe you missed that, it is available now. So you can just go to propulsion.co.za/goals, and you can get it there as well. So those are the only two things I want to share with you today. So let me see quickly. So Kobus says, exhilarating speaker, Tanya. Sorry, Kobus, I didn't put that up while she was still here. And then we've got Kuvendra saying, amazing, Tanya, thank you very much. I still feel your lights is not a problem. It created a warm atmosphere. Yeah, absolutely. It's an easy way to change the background and keep it a little bit dynamic. So my lighting is fine. It's just creating the atmosphere that I can easily change. So that's why I did it. It's a great camera. Absolutely. Khomotso looks awesome. Thank you. Ben says, got mine. Great setup. Thanks. And Kobus says, join Ignite now. I can only echo what Kobus is saying. Thank you very much. I hope you have a fantastic weekend and a fantastic Friday. Remember, people who work on a Friday did not work during the week. Thank you very much and have a fantastic time. I will see you back next week for some more. Thanks. Bye-bye.